correct me, okay, if I get the names wrong. But of course, Alec is here, okay, and Joseph is here, and Justin is here, and Sujith is here. Yep. And Yong Fang is it? Yong Fang is here. Great. Chavin is here with Peta. Zahin. Okay, sorry, I'm going by another. Zahin. Yeah, good. Thank you, Zahin. Zahin's here with Peta. Mackenzie's here, and then is it even? Yeah, Tron. Yeah. Oh, great. Good. Yeah, of course. So we've got that group right here, and then online, of course, in the Cosmos, we have Alex, Amber, Carlos, Corey, Musa. Good, Musa. I'm glad you were able to join, and Omer, and so let me just get my thoughts straight because we are kind of moving quickly here, but we're all good. Today is the penultimate class, the second last class. I thought it might be the last class, but there's been a little bit of a change. We were hoping to do a big Repair Cafe event next Wednesday here as part of the Global Leader class, and I was hoping to invite you all to that, and then we wouldn't have a class on Friday. But that event on Wednesday is not going to happen until the new year. We still have to get some things figured out with the college. So we are going to have our final class next week, okay? Class 14. And that's good because that's usually the class where we really look ahead, try to touch on the great force of evolution in the human story, but look at where we might be going based on what we've covered this semester. And the greatest force in this entire story that I've been exploring with you this semester is evolution. It is a natural force. It has led to all that has happened that you've seen in a very introductory way. But what's remarkable about evolution in terms of where we stand at this point in history today in the 21st century, and we can discuss that next week when we look ahead, is humans. We all humans have evolved to such a point that we're now taking control increasingly of evolution. This is huge on this planet. And we need to talk about that next week a little bit, okay? Looking ahead, I can't emphasize enough to all of you that you are among the generation and your children and your grandchildren who are living through a transition. Biological intelligence is increasingly being replaced by digital intelligence. Humans have created machines to such an extent that we now are creating self-learning machines. That's what AI is. That's what ChatGPT is. If you want to know something about the future, we will talk about this next week, but there are two individuals that are really important, and you may want to do a little bit of your own research into this, and you may already know the founder of OpenAI. OpenAI is the organization that has created ChatGPT. The person behind that, who created that, his name is Sam Altman. He's a 40-year-old, brilliant American entrepreneur, and we will talk about him next week. The other person you really want to be thinking about is the person who basically created artificial intelligence. Guess what? He's just down the highway at University of Toronto. His name is Geoffrey Hinton. He just won the Nobel Prize for Science. These two individuals, Sam Altman and Geoffrey Hinton, and there are others, Ray Kurzweil, I could mention, and many others. Elon Musk is not. He's the Elon Musk is the one who takes advantage of these ideas. These are the big thinkers. These are the real brilliant, scientifically minded thinkers. Elon Musk is more. He jumps on, takes advantage. Yes. Sort of, yeah. We might say Elon Musk is the Thomas Edison to the Nikola Tesla, the way and you will see this in the 20th century. The American businessman who wants to make a ton of money, and he's really, really smart, but he exploits, he takes advantage of the smart people around him who don't really want to be making a lot of money. They just want to be discovering things. I might say Sam Altman is moving in the direction of a Thomas Edison. He wants to make a lot of money too, but not Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton had been a senior executive at Google, and he left. And he is on a campaign to do what Robert Oppenheimer did when he created the atomic bomb, which is he's trying to educate humanity on the dangers now of artificial intelligence. Just the way that Robert Oppenheimer, as you probably know from the movie and the book and his life, did the same. Well, we'll talk about that, okay? This is all 20th century stuff. It's really significant. So let me just make sure that everybody is on board and ready. And if you have any questions, please ask if there's anything on your mind as we move towards the big part of the semester, which is your final assignment. If you haven't already delivered it, it's due next Tuesday. Okay, and if you want to talk about it, there's time today. But what I want to do is essentially two things today. I'd like to speak to the 20th century. I want to review a little bit the recorded talks I posted for you, Freedom's Power and Humanity's Stain. And then if we have some time, I'd like to do a little take-up of today's lecture and try something new, which is that 2 or 3 of you each go to a different screen and we take things up together with you writing down the key ideas from the class today, okay? But let's see if we have time for that. All right, so before we start though, I would like to have Alec come up and do a little bit of an update on the Repair Cafe, because the Repair Cafe is going to happen at the college. We're bringing it here, and I have already spoken about it, haven't I, to all of you? Yeah, well, Alec has been actually getting very involved in it because he's interested in it. And he can tell you and update you a little bit about what he's been doing. And it may be that as we go into the new year with setting up the Repair Cafe at this college, he may take on the responsibility through the Global Leader class of being the coordinator of getting the Repair Cafe launched, not just in this campus, but around the region. But that will be up to him, okay? So go ahead. Okay, guys, you want to come in so they can all see you online? Could you come and sit over here or just sit in between Sujith and Yongfang so they can see you online? Okay, your backs of your heads. That's good. That way, everybody feels like we're having a class. And yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I've been volunteering now for the Repair Cafe since November 9th. Usually on a weekly basis on the Saturdays. Last Saturday, we were at the Lilium Library downtown at around College and University area. So over the time of repairing there, usually I help with the setup, the takedown, and actual repairs himself. So this week, I ended up seeing some very interesting things that I actually haven't seen in person before. I saw a ransomware on a student's laptop, which was very interesting. Yeah, it was a very. I wasn't able to solve that, unfortunately, but I know how to repair it. But at the same time, everything is basically lost. That's unfortunate. From there, I also repaired a radio, a toaster oven, a blender, and an Apple MacBook Pro.
Oh, way to go! And you successfully
successfully repaired them. So for the radio, it was a battery issue. It was an older radio. He said it was about 15 years old. So what was happening was the battery was so drained that when you plugged it in, it would go into charge mode and it wouldn't let the radio actually start.
Yeah.
Fairly simple fix. Toaster oven, the bulbs inside the toaster oven were broken or burnt out, so they just need to be replaced.
Yep.
Also, an easier fix. There was some blender blades that needed repairing for that because they are unfortunately riveted in. My only recommendation was to soak them in vinegar to try to get the gunk inside out of it. And the Apple MacBook Pro unfortunately did have water damage, so it wasn't something I was able to repair on hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But luckily, the computer itself was working because I was able to connect a monitor to it to show that the computer portion was fine. It was just a monitor that needed replacing.
How would you describe, like, for the students here, the students in the Cosmos, and then, in short history of the world, this semester we have there's 50. I have over 100 students in short history of the world over 2 sections. Most of them are all watching the recordings. Okay, so this is a very small group of. It's a sprawling class. So could you speak to everybody in this class online here? Well, is there something about the Repair Cafe experience that you think is kind of important or special that they should know about?
It's a very close knitted community. It kind of feels like once you kind of join in and you kind of come in, a lot of the customers, even though I've only been there for a few weeks, you usually see a lot of repeat customers, customers that come in with different items, different objects that have problems. A lot of repairers become very well known with each other, and they actually help learn. They help teach each other. So if there's something you don't know, or if you're missing something that you need to do a repair itself, they'll actually help you and they'll show you how they would do it, and so you can actually help improve your own skills on doing that. We also something I learned last week that I didn't actually know. We also have repair apprentices. So if you don't actually know how to repair yourself, you can actually come in and they'll sit you with a repairer, and that repairer will teach you different things to check, different ways to look at things, and how to fix the objects.
And why do you like to fix things or repair things? Like, you seem to be naturally attracted to this.
So I grew up. I guess I'm a bit older, but a lot of the mindset I have is I like fixing things with my hands. I'm someone that likes to tinker with things and look at the inner components to learn how something works. So when you take something apart and you can put it back together again, I truly believe that's when you can truly understand how an object works. It kind of worked out as well in kind of my work life, ironically, because like when I worked in healthcare, when I was a manager and I worked at different departments, my mindset was if I didn't do the work myself or knew how the work was done, I had no right on managing or telling other people how they should do their job.
Yeah, right, right. Wow, that's great. Do any of you have any questions for Alec about, the Repair Cafe, what he's planning, and just generally what's so interesting about repairing or online in the Cosmos? Omer, Musa, Corey, Carlos, Amber, Alex, anything there? Please put it in the live chat and we'll take it up. But I wanted to just let you know about one big thing maybe that you didn't think about. Thanks. That's great, Alec. Thank you very much. I'd just like to point something out to all of you about this idea of repair and the planet and humanity. It may not have occurred to you, but let's come back to where we are in this classroom. You have been here in this classroom through the semester exploring the story of humanity. Where do we come from? We humans. And here we are today, and we're about to jump into one of the most exponentially fast, accelerated, massively expanding, scientifically enterprising, profoundly violent times in human history, when the population of the planet is also going to increase tremendously. The growth that's going to take place on planet Earth as a result of human civilization is going to take a huge leap forwards in the 20th century. It actually started in 100 years before, at the beginning of the 19th century. But I just want to point something out to all of you about this before we start. And I'm going to start with the video. It is said that in 2024, the time we live in now, we live in some ways, a broken world. Now, that's a kind of darker way of looking at it. But there are many people today speaking online, influencing all of you, the influencers, who might have a very dark and dystopian view that we've grown too fast, that we humans are like, a child holding a very powerful machine gun. We have all of these tools and technologies that we've created, really powerful technologies, but we don't really know how to use them that well. We end up abusing them. Some people take that view. And some people take the view that we have a lot of fixing to do, a lot of healing to do. The positive side of this is that we are extending our lifespans, we are solving medical problems, we are all getting more educated. And I'm going to show you a great video at the end of today's class from a kind of visionary who looks back over the last 200 years to show you the positive direction that we're taking with all of our growth. But the one thing that people seem to agree on is the world has become extremely, extremely complicated and entangled. I'll just finish my point and then we'll come. And so, as Alec has touched on, but I'll try and help you to understand, just very briefly, we all need to be a lot smarter now. We can't expect others to help us. We have to figure things out for ourselves. We're in new territory in human civilization. We've never been here before like this, where digital intelligence is beginning to replace biological intelligence. So we've got to figure out how things work. And most of us don't know. Most of us don't know how our computers work. Most of us don't know how ourselves work. Most of us don't know how the economy works. Most of us don't know even how our bicycle works that we might ride to school. We just take stuff for granted. And so I think it's very important for all of us to figure out how things work and get in there and learn and be able to fix things on our own and not wait for others to do it for us. And that's how I see the Repair Cafe and the movement. It's about fixing in a bigger sense. We all have to become fixers in some ways. We all have to need to know how to repair. Otherwise, somebody's going to do it for us. Do you trust that person? Don't you want to be able to do things yourselves? So I see this big idea here in the repair, not just about fixing stuff, but it's about the world too. Do you kind of get that idea? A little bit about fixing and fixing complicated things, and just think about complexity. Okay? Maureen, would you be able to write that down? Please just think about complexity. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Just an
Yes.
off-topic question for you.
Sure.
Even though as humanity keeps growing and we keep learning new things, do you think that the more we grow and the more we learn, the less human we become? I'm asking this more from a perspective of even now, Canadian housing costs, for example, food
Yeah.
costs, everything keeps rising. It seems like we've lost the humanity of believing in each other.
Oh, I can't answer that. I can only come back and say for all that we know, what have we learned? We know now how to take the electron out of nature and put it into transistors. That's how we get modern electronics. We know now about the neuron so well, there are 18 billion brain cells in our brains that give us the power of the human brain. They're called neurons or brain cells. Sam Altman at OpenAI, if you read about what he did, a paper was written by a young engineer at a college in the United States. His name is Alec Radford, I think. Sam Altman speaks about this in an interview. The paper was written by a young student who now works for Sam Altman because the student discovered something about one neuron. And Sam Altman realized something about that neuron and the way it's behaving allowed him to start creating and accelerating the idea of artificial intelligence. This is what we humans do. We know so much more through science of the natural world, electrons, neurons, but so what? If that just means we're creating more powerful things, but we're not actually learning how to be better, more humane, maybe it means what you said, that the more potentially, the more that we know, the more that we might become less human. It's huge question, okay? Huge question. Go ahead, Alec. Yeah, and then we'll start, okay?
Yeah, because like the other side of it is it could be the knowledge that's turning us, or it could just be the foundation of money, that which human invention that kind of moves us towards greed. If you look at like a lot of the economics nowadays, everyone believes in a neoclassical like economic theory,
Yes.
which basically puts us in different wage categories or groups, even though we call ourselves free people, but at the same time we're still categorized as an individuality based on how much you earn or how you earn your money.
Well, that's called capitalism. It's just an idea that we humans have adopted, and it's become our global system. Let me just say this, and then I'm going to move on, okay? I hope that so far this semester, you've begun to think seriously about humanity, about what humanity is, what we humans are doing, and that you've begun to open your mind to the idea that something's happening on planet Earth as a result of us humans, and we need to think hard about where this is going. And I'm going to stop there, okay? And go back to what I wanted to at least lecture on very briefly, and then we're going to explore this together. But I'd like to start with a video. All right, and I think I can run it myself, okay, Maureen, but I had a little trouble last week, and just because you're using extended, and I don't want. So could you, for everybody online right now, please go and click on the video called "Human Population Through Time." Okay, you will see it. Alex, Amber, do you see a video in the folder called "Human Population Through Time"? Well, I want to show you. Amber, are you there? Let's make sure. Yep, that's it. That's it. You can't find it? Okay. Amber, go to the DC Connect. Don't click yet. Go to the DC Connect folder on the content page. Exactly. Class 13, and you will see. Alex, do you see it there? Are you able to find it in the folder? Let me just make sure, because everybody.
Week 13, right?
Yeah, week 13, exactly. So I want to
no,
just.
it's not there.
It should be there. Class 13. Oh, go to. No, it will be there. Class 13.
Yeah, still not there. It's just the live video thing is there. The link to the live video is here.
Oh, because you're in not just a second. I think I know why. Because are you in?
Oh,
yeah,
wait.
I have.
Oh,
thought
never
I-
mind. It's just the live video, and now the class discussion thing is there.
Okay, so here's my mistake. It's just too much. I have two cohorts of short history of the world, two classes, and I usually duplicate everything for one into the other. So some of you will see it, some of you won't. That's okay. Maureen could you put the link in the live chat? So that's our workaround for now, okay? We always have a workaround. Maureen's going to put the link in for you of this, and I don't know if you're able to. Are you able to do it? You're great. Thank you. Okay. So everybody online in the cosmos, please go ahead and watch this video. Okay, we're going to watch it together. It's from the American Museum of Natural History in New York. It's a very large, well-regarded. Good. And watch the video. Make sure you mute everything for yourselves. You can watch it on your own, and then we're going to return in a moment. This video gives a little bit of a review of the whole story we've been covering so far and brings us up to date. I want you to watch something about what happens around the 20th century. Okay? Can you click? Exactly. Exactly. So take a look along the bottom. You see a little line moving. That's the year. 300 AD. We're using the AD, Anno Domini. 400 AD. 179 million or so population of human civilization. Things are starting to develop in other parts of the world, as we've covered, touched on in lectures in our classes. The population isn't growing that much. Humans are spreading around the planet. Birth of Islam out of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. Muhammad and his armies, in about 100 years, moving across Europe. Soon we're going to have the Crusades, and the Christian world and the Islamic world are going to be fighting. See in those yellow dots where human population is growing. Of course, Mesopotamia and Iraq, but look at India, Pakistan, that area as well. See China around the Yellow River, Silk Road system that will connect. That was the Mongol, that was Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan. Look at where the human population is growing. China and largely India, and it hasn't really taken off yet. There's barely 300, maybe 400 million people on Earth, human civilization. The plague in Europe, the Black Plague, killed about two-thirds of the European population, 50 million of the 75 million people in Europe, because they were immune to all of those germs. They could bring them over to the Americas, kill off so many of the indigenous population. Watch now what's going to happen. The Industrial Revolution. It's going to start. Here's where it's really starting to climb. You can hear that? Medical science is developing, life extension, hygiene is improving, sanitation is improving. People are starting to live longer, and the rich are healthier. Now look at the jump. 2000. That's the 21st century. What we're looking at is 1900 to 2000. Really, it's 1800 to 2000. And as Alex just said, right, that's what we're saying. We think there's going to be a leveling off of human population, about 10 billion on the planet. We shall see. Well, you know why it's often said we think we're going to level off? The richer you get, the fewer children you want. In the less developed parts of the world, the poor parts of the world, bigger families. I suspect among all of you here, that none of you will have a family of more than two children. If you have children, I will be 63 in about 2 weeks. I have no kids. It ain't gonna happen. I'm partly of this generation, and there are other reasons, but I'm a bit selfish. I think only about myself. I want that big American dream. I want freedom for me first. That's, what's that? And I'm married, but I mean, well, yes and no. Isn't it remarkable to see that jump? I don't know if any of you have really thought about our growth of human civilization on the planet in terms of that period of time, largely 200 years. It just shoots up like that. As a matter of fact, we often say that after the Second World War in 1950, there's what's called the Great Acceleration. We're going to see things really grow after that, but we'll get to that in a moment. But my point is, we are now entering a period in our story where there's going to be enormous growth and destruction. They go together. This is a very hard thing to grasp as well, which is what William McNeill, one of our world historians I've touched on, Rise of the West, History of the Human Community, when he spoke about the paradox of progress. I'm going to write that. Actually, we'll leave that there for now, okay? And trying to manage things today so it's not too fast. I want to just make sure the critical idea gets out there. There's two big ideas that I want all of you to really be engaging with now about the 20th century, the last 100 years or so. We're in the 21st century, but we're going to really telescope now into 1900 to 2000, okay? 1900 to 2000. Even though from 1800 to 1900, there was a lot of growth, and even though from 2000 to 2024, the growth continues, it's in this little kind of telescoped window of 100 years, the 20th century, that's so important. We say two things that are really, really important: the paradox of progress and the Promethean age. The Promethean age. Can you, do you want me to write that? Do you have stuff to do? You okay? Yeah. So just stay there for a second, because there's some critical notes that I want to make sure get down today. The paradox of progress and the Promethean age. What do you think that means? Paradox of progress. Hold on a sec. We've got default over here. I want everybody to be default. Okay? Joseph, you want to try? The paradox, do you want to? Joseph is going to try and explain the paradox of progress. Excellent. Maureen looks really nice too. What do you think that means? William McNeill, one of our most important world historians, told us, beware of this thing, the paradox of progress. Go ahead, Joseph.
Like the complexity of progress. So, for example, we as we can see, artificial intelligence. We're using artificial intelligence for the greater good, but there's going to be people in power, I guess higher powers, who are going to take advantage of that power and use it for not greater good, I guess, for destruction. Use it to like I guess to segregate certain people from
Yes.
society. You're gonna start to see a lot of segregation between the higher power, the middle class, the higher class, and the lower class. You're gonna see a lot of that as we see as we progress forward. The first world countries who have access to technology like this is gonna evolve, and third world countries are gonna start to like start to like I guess regress.
You, keep going, Joseph. I'm going to help you in a second. Not quite. But first of all, let me just remind you of something that you may not all see immediately, and I can help you, okay? You're watching a young human being on his toes, although he's sitting, but mentally on his toes. He's actually thinking it through and answering from his memory. He's not looking to his machine first for an answer, okay? This is good. This is very, very good. We don't want, do we, to be living in a world when whenever you have to answer something, you immediately need your machine to help you, right? Unless you have a disability. Fair enough. No problem. But do you really want to be that human being who is so tied to his laptop, to his phone, to his device, that as soon as he's asked a question, it's like, oh, let's see what Google says. Let's see what ChatGPT says. Let's see what Sam Altman says. Let's see what Elon Musk says. Do you really want to be that kind of slave? No. You use your head. You think for yourself. Look at him. You wouldn't think of that unless I pointed that out to you. But I'm trying to put Joseph Cantuba in the context of human history. There you have an extraordinary human being telling us and understanding, and we're having a conversation in person. This is powerful stuff for humanity. Okay? Does it sort of make sense? Okay. I'm going to stop, okay? Because you're kind of right, kind of not quite there. But what William McNeill meant, essentially, was exactly what Robert Oppenheimer went on a campaign for, and why a movie was made of him, and why Geoffrey Hinton left Google for the sake of a bigger cause, not money, because they want us to know that the more powerful our tools are, the greater our responsibilities become. The more we progress, the more we think we advance, we don't just get better, we also have new problems. It's a double-edged sword. Can you write that down? Progress does not mean everything just gets better. It means we have more responsibility to use that power properly. So, the 20th century represents this greatly because it speaks to something the Greeks had tried to help us to understand. Remember Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and all those free-thinking Greeks who introduced the idea of democracy and free thinking? Well, they had a very rich universe of mythology, of gods, and of demigods or sort of gods. They were pagan, if you will. If you take a sort of view of a modern Jew or Christian or Muslim who believe in these single gods, and everybody else who believes in multiple gods are kind of pagans, then, well, then you would think these Greeks, they're kind of weird. But the idea of a single God and the idea of multiple gods are human inventions, okay? So you walk around as a Christian, you walk around as a Jew, you walk around as a Muslim, and you all believe in one God. It's just because that's what your religion says. But lots of humans have had different beliefs. The Greeks said there was a demigod named Prometheus. Have any of you ever heard of the story of Prometheus? Mackenzie? Yes? A little bit? A little bit? Okay. All right. I'll help you to understand, because this is what we're entering into in the 20th century. We're going to talk about the world wars. We're going to talk about genocide. I'm going to show you something called the Wannsee Conference in Germany, which is when the final solution was engineered by humans to annihilate millions and millions and millions of people, because that's what he wanted. I'm going to show you that in a moment and prove it to you. It's not conspiracy. The Greeks said with Prometheus, Prometheus was this sort of half god, half human. And he was very curious, very enterprising, and he challenged Zeus, the main god, the god, the male big god of the Greeks. Okay? And Prometheus did something very dangerous, very brave. He took the fire from Zeus. You see, fire is nature. Zeus had the fire. And Prometheus, he said, I'm going to take the fire and give it to the humans. And for that, according to Greek mythology, he was eternally condemned. In the story of Prometheus, he was strapped or he was chained to the side of a mountain, and for eternity he was condemned to suffer. Every day, his chest would be opened up by a particular bird. I think it was a raven. So he would be strapped there with his organs out, and then every night he would be sewn up again. And then the next day, opened up again, and that would be his life forever, suffering eternally for having taken the fire from Zeus. Historians tell us today in the 20th century, when they talk about this being the Promethean age, that it appears that we humans have done what Prometheus has done. We have taken the powers of the gods and we've given it to ourselves. But we don't really know how to use this power. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. But it's a struggle. It's difficult. It's the paradox of progress. There is a very important thinker today who's trying to help us to understand this too. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. He's written a series of books called Homo Deus. His new book is Nexus. Another book he's written, you may know of his books. How many of you know of Yuval Noah Harari? He's a very important thinker, a scholar in Israel. And he is touching on this idea increasingly that we humans are taking on more and more the powers that we ascribed to gods in the past. So the question then becomes, well, what exactly is the nature of this power that we humans now have increasingly? What is this fire? Well, I want to show you a little video. Fortunately, as we enter the 20th century, we've got lots of motion pictures and lots of moving pictures to help us to understand. So I want to go to the next video here, and you should see it, but Maureen will put it into the chat. If you can just go back to the folder, I'd like you to understand something about this fire that we have now. Okay, and let's go to 1900. And if you can just tee it up there, and could you send that to the Cosmos as well, that link? Good. I'm going to confess to you something. I made this video, but it's not exactly what you think. A few years ago in Hong Kong, there was an exhibition about Albert Einstein and his importance in the 20th century. And China is a very, very important part of human history, as you know, and of our future. China, as you've seen, is the longest continuous state in human history. It's the most populous country in the world. China is the East. They're the great power of the East, the way the United States is the great power of the West. And the one thing that China does very well is they open themselves up to ideas in the rest of the world. Just the way Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan, the Khans had done that with Marco Polo, continue to do this. Always exhibitions about important Western thinkers that you will see in China, even though it's a one-party state today, even though it's very communist and very totalitarian. That's something we could talk about, but more importantly is that they understand how to engage with the rest of the world and their ideas. So there was an exhibition a few years ago of Albert Einstein in Hong Kong, and I went there with my wife. And I took some videos of things in this exhibition. And one of them is this video, and I took this for my students. I'm not selling these, but I used my iPhone and I captured this little video that was being displayed at the Einstein exhibition. Why am I telling you about Albert Einstein? Well, because there's probably no person in human history who represents the power of the 20th century like Albert Einstein. the beginning of the 20th century, when he was still a very young man, he wrote 4 important papers. It's called his Wonder Year. It was in 1903 or 1904. He wrote 4 important papers, some of which he would win the Nobel Prize for eventually, where he tried to help us to understand how the universe works. What is the speed of light? What is an atom? And he also helped us to understand the idea of gravity, to update that idea that Isaac Newton had mentioned to us much earlier, a few hundred years earlier. One of the important things that happened in the early part of the 20th century was not only did we start to understand more about the universe, but we started to create technologies from these new discoveries that gave us more power. I'd like to run this video that will show you what's starting to happen to humanity right at the beginning of the 20th century. As we're starting to create these more powerful technologies, we start to create these big factories. We start to create more things. Maureen, could you just run this? This is the video from the Einstein exhibition. And what is now entering into the story of humanity, the growing population, and the discoveries that we have started to make is that we're creating new machines. We're creating new machines that increase our productivity. This is like agriculture, but we fast forwarded 10,000 years. When we create new machines, we become more productive. We can do more. We can create more stuff. We can start to actually, show ourselves to be able to start to go faster, go farther. This is actual archival images of European cities at the turn of the 20th century. There is the Hindenburg, the big ships that we are starting to create, fueled by oil and gas that we have started to extract from the planet. We've learned how to get in there and take that natural element, that dead vegetation, dead matter, and process it into new products and new energy. And we're starting to fly. The Wright brothers, very early on, turn of the 20th century, we're starting to lift off. We humans are dreaming of going further. All of this represent the roots of the world you're living in now. It is a world of accelerated scientific and technological development. And it's a direct result of discoveries that are being made and technologies that are being created. Even a bicycle. Simple thing, but the bicycles now have to go faster. We want to see velocity becomes very important. Can we just write that down, Maureen? Velocity and speed start to become very important because we know we can go faster. Why do I drive on the 407? And even though there's lots of space, 6 lanes, nobody in front of me, I still want to go 160 kilometers an hour, 180, just because I can. I want to go fast. Pushing the limits of what we can do, what we humans can do. This ability to do more, to go further, to create more, is what we call progress. But I hope that you've begun to see that progress also comes with responsibility. I'm going to show you one other little video that will help you, and then we're going to move ahead and start to look at some darker things that begin to happen. Can we go to the next? There's one other video that I want to show you. It has narration on it, but it's so fascinating. And if you can just tee it up, you will see. It's called The Atom. The Atom. Yeah, great. Just Just hold it there, okay, and put the link in there. Albert Einstein had a dream when he was about 16 years old. He would look up into the sky and he would think about what are the real powerful forces in nature? What exactly is nature? And he concluded, as others had done before him, that the speed of light is the fastest thing that we know of. A photon of light is the fastest thing. And he dreamed, he actually had this in his imagination. He dreamed of riding a photon of light. Can you get your mind around this? This is the human mind now that we're starting to see grow too. Try to get your mind around this. It might make you queasy. You might need some Gravol or something because light, does anybody know how fast light moves? A photon of light through the universe? Justin, do you know? You want to try? A photon of light.
Okay, well, I don't know not sure if I remember the exact number, but I know it's insanely fast. It's like
Okay.
almost
It's insanely.
instantaneous.
Okay, so just try to get this in your mind. What I'm trying to help you to understand is that in the 20th century, as we're beginning to see more and do more, our mind, the human mind, is starting to grow. 250,000 kilometers per second. Oh, okay, thank you. I may be wrong. Where does that come from? Don't worry about it. I think it is 250, 297, 297,000. It may be. I'll go with what Alec is saying because I think 209. No, it's oh god, here we go with it's 100 and it's 200 and it's 400,000 kilometers per second. 297,000 kilometers per second. Let's get this straight. I'm having a little bit of a brain seize up moment with numbers, okay? Let me just get you the numbers, kilometer and miles. Miles will be more, kilometers will be less. So it's 200 and kilometers. Yeah. Kilometers per second. Yeah. Okay. Let's say we'll round it off, okay? 300,000 kilometers per second. Can you get your mind around anything that fast? It's going around the circumference of the Earth about 7 times or 8 times in 1 second. Because the circumference of the planet is, where's our planet? The circumference of the planet is 40,000 kilometers around, okay? So this photon of light is going around 7 times in 1 second. The human mind is beginning to engage with something so powerful. That's what Albert Einstein was doing. That's what scientists do. Scientists have very powerful imaginations, and then they often go out and they try to prove what they're sort of sensing. And if they can't prove it, then they know it's not true. So Albert Einstein was beginning to understand something about the natural world. I want to show you something about what we began to see that others were beginning to show us, others who were thinking along his lines, not the world of the large, the macro world. That's the big natural world out there, nature. It's the world of the micro world, the infinitesimal, the small world too. We developed microscopes now that can see much, much further. Let's take a look at what we start to learn about the atom, because this is going to lead to the atomic bomb. It's coming. And the world is going to change greatly because of what we're seeing now. Can you just run this for a second? It's called Have You Ever Seen an Atom? You can leave that up there. That's great. We are seeing more that's in nature. This is science. We are using these discoveries to create more powerful tools. That's technology. And you might think that this is a great sign of better things to come. And you're not wrong. But I'm going to now talk about something much darker that we have to be very aware of. We're talking about the double-edged sword today. And this is the sharp, brutal, cruel side of the sword. The question is often raised by historians. If we can't solve our ethical and social and moral problems, is it possible that all of these great tools that we develop could only be used for more destructive purposes? You might be following some of the news that is taking place these days in Ukraine or the Middle East, and you may be very aware of the scale of destruction that now is unleashed with the bombs that we have. This is the dilemma that we face, and the First World War really tells us something about this. I want to speak about the two world wars that happened in the 20th century. They happened very close to each other. And then we will stop. We will conclude for today. And then when we come back next week, I'll be able to take you with something more hopeful that happened as a result of the Second World War. I didn't have time today to get my images ready of the First World War and the Second World War, but that's okay. They're pretty savage, and I'm not sure you really want to even see some of these images. The clip that I'm going to show you next is simply going to stay up there for now, and I'm just going to tell you about the Wannsee Conference. I'm not going to run it for you. But Maureen, could you just do me a favor and just go to the next video, Wannsee Conference, and just freeze it there, okay? Because I want to tell you something about what happened in the Second World War too that will give you a better understanding of the problems that we face. The Wannsee Conference, yeah, just leave it up there for now, okay? And for those of you watching, oh, don't leave the image up there. So share, if you can just share the link with the others and then just leave that up here, okay? For those of you in the Cosmos, please don't watch this video yet, okay? I'm going to talk about it. You will have time on your own. And for those of you watching the recording as well, you can watch this on your own. But you should see two white military men sitting at a table. They are the senior members of Hitler's inner circle. They are the leaders of the fascist movement in Germany during the Second World War. Let me just explain what you're looking at, and then I'm going to rewind, okay? In 1941, when Europe was at war, before Canada and the United States had entered the Second World War. And I'm going to come back in a moment, and I'll rewind. I just want to get you set up for this. A remarkable event took place in a suburb of Berlin in Germany for 90 minutes. It's called the Wannsee Conference. A place called Wannsee. It's a beautiful little suburb. It's all true. Promise you. I can show you as well. German filmmakers, in German, made a film about this event, and they've made it widely available as well for the world to watch. You can easily watch it on YouTube. I put the link in here for you. This was the moment when it looked like Hitler was going to win the war. In 1939, in the Second World War, There's another one that's I need to tell you about that led to this war. In 1939, Hitler invaded the first European country of many that he would. And in 2 years, his forces, great military machine, one of the most impressive military machines that the world had ever seen, was moving across Europe and was occupying Austria, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and was trying, but was pushed back from invading England. That was called the Blitz in London when they dropped many, many bombs on London. Hitler had established a new belief called totalitarianism. And that is that the power rests with one man at the center. It's as if the God King had returned, but in a very dark and violent way. Because in his view of humanity, there was only one race that mattered, the German race. White, blue-eyed, Aryan people. The brown, the Jew, we'll get to the Jew, but everybody else, would have to fall into the German view of the world that Hitler had brought. This is a very simple way of explaining something that happened at Wannsee, and then I will come back and explain. In 1941, when it looked like Hitler was going to win this war, he'd yet to confront the Soviet Union, and he will be pushed back by Stalin in the same way that Napoleon, another emperor, had tried to invade Russia, and he was pushed back. This is before that happened. Okay, yes. They did, but then it was broken, and Russia became an ally with the United States against Hitler. So there was a lot of, but early on, the two great totalitarian dictators of the 20th century, Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, Adolf Hitler, were together. But these kind of men, when they make pacts, there's no room for two people. It's always one eventually, and they go their own ways. But how many of you have ever heard of the Wannsee Conference? I just need to check to see, because Alec has, Mackenzie has, Joseph, has anybody online ever heard of the Wannsee Conference? Please just raise a hand or go yes. I'll assume nope. Good. I need to explain this to you because when I talked about the conquest and about how Europe came over and encountered the indigenous peoples of this part of the world, they came with a sanctioned view that they had the superior civilization. And if the people here did not obey and conform, they could be considered less than human and savage. This is a profound problem for humanity. If we can't resolve this sense of one society, one people, one group believes themselves biologically superior than others, you can imagine what our future will be when weapons of mass destruction are available and they're used by those who believe they are superior. They will attempt to destroy, to liquidate, to obliterate. That's exactly what the Wannsee Conference was. In 1941, Adolf Hitler asked his senior command to come up with a plan on how do you get rid of all the undesirables in the countries that Germany was occupying, including in Germany itself. Remember, Germany occupied France. Hitler walked to the Eiffel Tower. He had a moment when he could have destroyed the Eiffel Tower if he wanted to, but sort of like Alexander the Great, sort of, he recognized that this was a great culture and he did not want to destroy the French beautiful culture for humanity. He recognized something about that culture, but nonetheless. And he had been an artist at one point. He trained as an artist as a young man. Hitler went to art school. He was a frustrated artist, as some often say. Imagine a group of educated human beings from a great nation in history, the German nation, so deep back in history, proud, great nation, warriors with its own independent culture, and these educated men sit around a boardroom table and just like a bunch of executives from Ford or General Motors or Hyundai or Toyota, they've met and they're going to discuss a technical problem. How do we make disappear all of these people? Where do we put them? Well, we can't deport them. That's going to be kind of difficult. We'll watch what happens in the US in the next 2 years. Donald Trump deporting all these people, and they're all going to be put into camps in Texas. Read. You'll see. Texas is now so determined to build these deportation camps, and all of the undesirable so-called illegal immigrants in the United States will be put into camps and pushed back, even though we know Elon Musk and his brother came to the United States illegally. Read about it. His brother's on the record. 1941, 90 minutes. These men map it out. Here's how we do it. We're going to get our trains, our freight trains, and we're going to ship all of these people to concentration camps. And in this meeting that took place at the Wannsee Conference, they even drew up, we have it, evidence A, of how many of these undesirables, mostly Jews, were in each of these countries that Germany was occupying. Poland, Hungary, Greece, Romania, they had a list, very organized, just like cars. We saw for the first time in human history human beings sitting down, educated human beings, whose only purpose was to figure out how do you kill as many people as you can in the quietest way. And even if the world learns about this, they say this. They will never believe it. It will be so awful. Imagine the human mind. The First World War and the Second World Wars were terrible wars in human history. They were the worst conflicts ever for humanity. More people were killed, more weapons of mass destruction were used, tanks were used for the first time, planes were used for the first time, machine guns were used for the first time, and the legacy of these two world wars in terms of the millions upon millions who were killed and slaughtered and obliterated was two important lessons for us going forwards. I could speak to you about the normal blow-by-blow account of battles that took place in the First World War and the Second World War for all of the military buffs here, because that's generally the way we talk about these two world wars. Some of this history I am not familiar with, so I would be uncomfortable trying to explain to you how every battle went. But I'm fascinated by this too. D-Day, the moment when the Western world, led by Winston Churchill, the Americans and Canadians, land in France, the biggest military expedition history, and pushed Hitler back, is a phenomenal moment in military history. And there are many battles in both world wars that are impressive. And there are important political reasons for why these wars happen. I'm not going to talk about that for now. I'm only going to talk about the scale of destruction and the decisions made by two powers to use weapons and tools that have changed our lives forever. Genocide, I'd like you to write in there are two very, very important terms you need to understand now going forwards. Could you just write down very large, genocide, Genocide, and here's the word you may never have heard of before. Omnicide. Omnicide. The legacy, ultimately, of these two world wars, from the darkest side, from the most disturbing side, the side that we all must understand, is the ability of humans to use new tools of destruction to destroy many people quickly. Many, many, many people. It's called total war. War in history, mostly, was of men who go to battle to prove their glory. And it was a tremendous thing to go to battle and win distinction, going to your death bravely when you fight so close to somebody with a shield or a spear or even your fists. But that's not war now in the 20th century. War is you sit in a tank, you're in a plane, or even now in the 21st century, you're at a computer terminal and you decide with an algorithm, which place you're going to bomb, and the missile goes and it kills a whole bunch of people. That's war. It's not very glorifying. And as a result of these tools, everybody gets killed, not just the soldiers. Cities get leveled. Ordinary people get destroyed. It's called total war. Then there is omnicide. The destruction of everything, all life. In 1945, to end the Second World War, the American president had a very fateful decision to make. Albert Einstein had written him a letter and said, guess what? We figured out how to split the atom. That atom that we can now see, we can wrench it apart. Like, atom is the basic fundamental unit of nature. Although inside the atoms, we now know are subatomic particles. You can go even to quarks and other things, but the atom, you saw the atom. Well, you take apart the atom, do you know how much energy you can release? Well, he said, the American president, sir, we have discovered this. We can split the atom. We don't want Hitler to have this knowledge. We want you to have this knowledge. And eventually, a project was developed called the Manhattan Project. Robert Oppenheimer was brought on board, a physicist, to head it up. Robert Oppenheimer took this knowledge that Albert Einstein had and others, and with that knowledge, the atomic bomb was created. Hitler eventually had to admit, because of that incredible D-Day invasion by Britain and the United States and Canada and others, that he would not defeat us. And he retreated to his bunker, killed himself, was not big enough to face defeat. But the war wasn't over. The Japanese had their own god king, the emperor. They had invaded the United States. They had dropped these bombs from pilots, the kamikaze pilots at Pearl Harbor, who just annihilated the American fleet of warships at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. And so the American president was faced with the decision, how do we end this war finally? The Americans warned the Japanese again and again, we will drop this atomic bomb. We have this bomb ready. We will use it if you don't accept defeat. The love of the God King in Japan is not that much different than the Incas looking up at Atahualpa on the platform 500 years earlier. Their God King, the Japanese. No way are we going to accept defeat. Our emperor is sacred, is beautiful. If he says we should continue fighting, we will continue fighting. Eventually, the Japanese said, no, we will not surrender. The emperor, the humiliation for them of their emperor having to surrender, of their God, their great God, surrendering to the rest of the world was too much, and they would not surrender. Summer of 1945, August, 9 a.m. or so, planes come over Hiroshima in Japan and eventually Nagasaki, and the big atomic bombs are dropped. The force of that bomb was so great when it hit ground zero that if you were close by, you would have been completely, you would have vanished. You just vanished. The impressions of bodies that were thrown up against walls, the body was gone, but the shadow of the body was there. Nature's power. The atomic bomb was released on the world. I'm going to stop because I want to tell you something about what happened that is very hopeful as a result of the end of the Second World War. And I'm going to wait until next week to tell you about that in our final class. I will say this for our final part of today's lecture. Historians will often say that a dividing line was drawn at the end of the Second World War. There was the world before the atom bomb was dropped, and there was the world after. We entered the atomic age after. We now live increasingly going into the future with this awesome responsibility as humans. We have the weapons now. We have the tools. Weapons of mass destruction that can kill a lot of people fast. And then it's 2024. I was talking about 1945. Do you know how powerful our nuclear missiles are now? Talk about obliteration. The obliteration of all life is in human hands. That's the big picture. That's around you. But there's some very good news that happened after the war. But it's fragile. And I will tell you about that next week, okay? Alec? From 1945? I don't even want to, the destructiveness. In the cliche, there's great responsibility and freedom. Think about that as you leave today. The more power we take on for ourselves, the more responsible we become to each other. Anyways. Anybody online? It's okay, Musa. We'll talk later. That's a very introductory, very scraping the surface of the 20th century, but we'll talk some more next week, okay? I look forward to your final assignments. If you want to reach me, want to talk about anything, I'm right here. And anybody, Alex? Yeah, go ahead. Who wants to speak? Who is that speaking?
Sir, just to clarify something regarding the final assignment, the topic we're discussing, it has to be, can it be like our own topic outside of the class regarding history, or does it have to be specifically something that we discussed during the past 13 weeks?
No, it can be your own topic, but what you refer to in terms of the research that you use and how you demonstrate your what you want to say has to come from the class. That's called integration of course material. So examples, absolutely. I'm giving you the chance to write about anything, but the way that you think about it, what you refer to, and how you talk about it needs to talk about the whole of human history and needs to refer to what we've discussed in class.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Have a good day.
You too. Anything, guys, you need to know? Otherwise, we're shutting down, and I'm glad we'll be here next week because I really want to end our semester on a more positive note. Today, it's grim. This is grim stuff, and I've barely even shown you things that you need to see about concentration camps and 7. I think there's 7 countries. 7? I think it's 7 or 8 countries. China, US, France, Britain, Israel, Pakistan, and India. Imagine Pakistan and India, Muslim, Hindu, going at each other, with nuclear weapons. North Korea, I missed. 9, okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Let's open the doors and, bring in some nice